Well, we can safely say, and this is something that Transparency International said, that Brazil was the epicenter of corruption in Latin America, at least in this decade. It was exporting corruption to all over the region. There was a very elaborate scheme around Odebrecht, but not only Odebrecht, OAS was also a construction company. And we saw that the impact of these corruption cases have had profound effects in Peru, in Ecuador, in Dominican Republic, in Panama, and so on. One thing that is interesting about this is that we can actually use these corruption scandals as a way to measure how strong is the rule of law in certain countries. We know for a fact how much money was paid in bribes in Panama, for example, in Dominican Republic, which are small economies, but they were among the leading countries where bribes were paid. We also know about Mexico and so on. But then we know for a fact that in some of these countries, nothing happened. In Mexico, not much has been uncovered regarding Odebrecht's deals. The same in Panama, the same in the Dominican Republic. Whereas in other countries, particularly in Brazil, of course, which was where everything originated, but also in Peru, we have seen that the Attorney General office has been doing its job, the courts have been doing their job, presidents have been arrested, powerful politicians have been put under arrest. So it has been a good way to measure then how strong are institutions in the fight against corruption. And we have seen a great disparity along the region. In the case of Brazil, of course, it's interesting to see that it came out of nowhere. I mean, it's not a big surprise that corruption was pervasive, but it came out of nowhere, the extent of corruption, implicating basically all political parties, leading figures from the government, back then from the Workers' Party and the opposition. And the fact that piecemeal reforms that were implemented throughout the years, it wasn't just a big reform that we can pinpoint. It was piecemeal reforms that were implemented during the 1990s, during the 2000s, earlier this decade, that led to the strengthening of the federal police, the judiciary, the attorney's office, and that created the conditions for these corruption cases to be prosecuted successfully here in Brazil. So yes, in one sense, Brazil was the problem, but on the other one, it has given us a clue of what kind of reforms can be implemented in other countries in Latin America in order to fight corruption, particularly when it comes to plea bargaining, which is perhaps the most effective tool we have seen in Brazil when it comes to uncovering and bringing to justice all these corruption cases.